A Shelbyville, Indiana man has been arrested on felony child molestation charges after police say he assaulted a 2-year-old girl, causing serious injuries that required surgery. Investigators confirmed 27-year-old Johnny Knuckles was arrested on the 25th of November 2025 and booked into the Shelby County Jail. He faces 2 counts of child molesting, both level 1 felonies. If convicted, he could face up to 100 years in prison. On the 24th of November, Shelbyville police were called to MHP Hospital following a report of suspected child sexual abuse. Medical staff determined the child had sustained serious injuries requiring surgical intervention. After interviewing family members, detectives identified Johnny as a suspect. Witnesses reported seeing him disrobed in the child's room minutes before the injuries were discovered, near the changing table. Court documents allege he attempted to conceal what happened and claimed the injuries were the result of a fall from a toy slide. Witnesses also said he tried to quickly get dressed and clean the room. According to the documents, Johnny allegedly told others, "She'll be fine. Don't take her to the doctor." During questioning, Johnny told police he had recently suffered strokes and blood clots, and that his medication affects his memory. He admitted to drinking alcohol throughout the day, including 4 Loko, Malibu and Vodka, despite being advised not to mix alcohol with his medication. Confronted with witness statements, Johnny denied being at the child's changing table. He claimed he would never change a diaper because he could not stand urine or feces, and added that he did not want to be accused of child molesting. Following the interview, Johnny was formally charged in the Shelby Superior Court with 2 counts of child molesting. He remains held on a $1 million bond. A Dallas, Texas woman faces a murder charge after she allegedly stabbed the father of her child moments before he crashed his SUV near her apartment. At around 10:50 a.m. on the 2nd of December 2025, 32-year-old Alexandria Hubbard chased 32-year-old Jerrian Jones through her apartment complex parking lot in the 2100 block of West Letterbed Drive while armed with a knife, making repeated stabbing motions toward him. Investigators have not detailed what led up to the stabbing, but surveillance video shows Alexandria chasing Jerrian with a knife before he drove away. Minutes later, police and Dallas Fire Rescue responded to a crash in the 4600 block of Southampton Road. Jerrian was found unresponsive in the driver's seat of a white GMC Envoy, suffering from a bleeding chest wound. Paramedics attempted resuscitation before transporting him to a hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Investigators confirmed Jerrian's SUV was the only vehicle involved in the crash, and no bystanders were injured. Family members told detectives Jerrian had spent the previous night at Alexandria's home, the same location captured in the surveillance footage, and less than a mile from the crash site. Apartment staff confirmed Alexandria was the only adult listed on the lease. Police recovered the knife believed to have been used in the stabbing. The Dallas County Medical Examiner later ruled Jerrian's death a homicide by a stab wound to the chest. Authorities noted Alexandria and Jerrian shared a child together. Police did not say whether the child was present during the incident, but confirmed the child is now in the care of relatives. On the afternoon of the 3rd of December, the U.S. Marshal Service North Texas Fugitive Task Force arrested Alexandria at her apartment. She was booked into the Dallas County Jail charged with murder. Court records show Alexandria is awaiting her initial court appearance before a Dallas County judge. Bond has not yet been set. Investigators have not released a motive in the case. A woman is behind bars accused of fatally shooting a man at a motel in Wilson, North Carolina. At 10:14 a.m. on Saturday the 29th of November 2025, authorities responded to reports of shots fired at America's Best Value Inn, located at 1815 US Highway 301 South. When officers arrived, they entered the motel and found 39-year-old Kenneth Ray Finch Jr. of Wilson deceased from gunshot wounds at the scene. During the investigation, police identified 55-year-old Daisy Letrecia Muldrow of Rocky Mount as the suspect. She was located in a wooded area behind the motel and taken into custody. Daisy is charged with murder and remains held at the Wilson County Detention Center without bond. She is scheduled to appear in court on Monday the 1st of December. Investigators believe the shooting was an isolated incident, though the case remains under active investigation. Police have not released details about the connection between Kenneth and Daisy or the events leading up to the shooting. A tyre shop employee is accused of fatally shooting his manager while the manager worked behind the front counter. Police identified the victim as 42-year-old Billy B.J. Brightman, manager of rent-a-tire shop at 4017 West Camp Wisdom Road in Dallas, Texas. Investigators said that around 1:10 p.m. on the 1st of December 2025, Billy was working at the counter when 21-year-old tire technician Marlon Lawrence allegedly approached from behind and opened fire. Surveillance video reportedly captured the incident, showing Billy struck once in the back and then again in the face. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. Authorities say the motive remains unclear. During questioning at police headquarters, Marlon reportedly admitted to the shooting. He was arrested and booked into the Dallas County Jail, where he's been held on a murder charge. 31-year-old John Christopher Fuller is behind bars accused of fatally shooting his girlfriend's co-worker, 28-year-old Cameron Hoilette, inside her home. At 12:12 p.m. on the 27th of November 2025, officers with the Maitland Police Department responded to reports of shots fired at an apartment complex at 9301 Summit Center Way in Orange County, Florida. When officers arrived, they found Cameron in the back bedroom lying on the floor in front of a mattress with a gunshot wound to the head. A spent shell casing was found on the mattress. Officers performed CPR until paramedics arrived and took over. Cameron was pronounced dead at the scene. Detectives learned that John's girlfriend, Nyla Lindsay, who was 9 months pregnant with his child, had been redoing her co-worker's hair when John stormed through the door and an argument broke out. According to the police report, Cameron said if there was a problem, he would just leave, and that he only came to get his hair braided. Without warning, John allegedly pulled out a firearm and shot Cameron in the face. Nyla ran from the apartment, reportedly fearing John might shoot her next. He followed, and she asked what he was thinking, reminding him it was only her co-worker. According to the affidavit, John had a shocked expression and began mumbling about something she couldn't understand. Investigators say John got into his vehicle and asked Nyla to join him. She refused, and John stated he was heading back home. Later that same day, the Orange County Fugitive Unit detained John a few miles away on West Banks Avenue in Winter Park. Detectives noted that John and Nyla had been in a relationship for about a year and a half. 2 months earlier, Nyla had moved roughly 180 miles from West Palm Beach to Orange County after John told her about a job at a call center. He said he'll move soon, but according to the affidavit, Nyla believes John had lied about the start date of the job. She grew upset and stopped talking to him as much, which John interpreted as infidelity. The day before Thanksgiving, John called Nyla saying that he missed her and wanted to visit. She told him not to come because she was busy and already had plans. John ignored her and showed up anyway. John's been charged with first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty on the 1st of December and remains held at the Orange County Jail without bond. On the 1st of December 2025, 34-year-old Kurt James Davis was sentenced to life in prison for bludgeoning 80-year-old Susan Williams to death with a rock outside her Roanoke, Virginia apartment. The killing took place in the early morning hours of the 19th of February 2025. At 5:13 a.m., police responded to the 2100 block of Yellow Mountain Road southeast after a witness reported seeing a man in a long black coat standing over a woman with a shovel. Officers arrived to find Susan suffering from extensive facial wounds outside her apartment complex. She was pronounced dead at the scene, with a blood-stained shovel laying nearby. The witness provided a detailed description of the suspect, leading officers to Kurt. He was standing close to the scene with blood on his hands and clothing. During questioning, Kurt admitted to striking Susan multiple times with a rock, claiming he acted to keep the peace. Surveillance footage from 4:31 a.m. shows Susan in the lobby area confronting Kurt. He was wearing a long dark coat and standing near the entrance. Investigators believe the confrontation began when Susan asked if he lived in the building. Kurt reportedly insisted that he did, but when she pressed further, the situation escalated. Moments later, he attacked her in the hallway. Authorities confirmed that Kurt did not know Susan prior to the killing, had no fixed address, and had a prior criminal history including convictions of arson, burglary and assault. Susan was a respected community figure, having served for 35 years as the executive director of the League of Older Americans. Even in retirement, she remained a passionate advocate for the elderly, remembered for her dedication and leadership. On the 1st of December 2025, 31-year-old Sakiyna Thompson was sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murder of her romantic rival, 23-year-old Kayla Hodgson. The attack occurred at 5 a.m. on the 13th of July 2022 inside Kayla's apartment along Northwest 57th Street, near Commercial Boulevard in Tamarack, Florida. Sakiyna had flown from New York to South Florida just days before the killing, jealous that Kayla was dating a former boyfriend, and had blocked her on social media. Authorities said Sakiyna confronted Kayla inside her home, and then stabbed her to death. Police arrived minutes later after a 911 call, and found Kayla's body inside the apartment. The autopsy confirmed dozens of stab wounds, and revealed that her neck had been slashed, a fatal injury that underscored the ferocity of the attack. Sakiyna disguised herself with a hat and a COVID-19 mask, used a fake Uber account to travel to and from the apartment, and arrived before dawn to catch Kayla off guard. Authorities said those steps showed the killing was planned. Investigators tied Sakiyna to the crime through flight records, cell phone data, and items recovered from the apartment. She was arrested in New York on the 3rd of August 2022, and then extradited to Florida. Jurors were shown body cam footage from deputies entering the apartment, and autopsy photos illustrating the brutality of the attack. On the stand, Sakiyna conceded she killed Kayla, but insisted it was self-defense. She claimed Kayla struck her over the head and slashed her stomach with broken glass. Pregnant at the time, Sakiyna said she blacked out, and the next thing she remembered was holding the weapon and seeing Kayla dead on the floor. She admitted she changed into a set of Kayla's clothes and tried to clean the scene before fleeing, telling jurors I was walking in the blood. Jurors rejected that account, convicting her of first-degree murder. A man accused of killing his girlfriend in front of their toddler at a motel claimed she was still alive when he left the room. At around 4:30 p.m. on the 2nd of November 2025, officers were called to the Days Inn on Valley Avenue in Elmsford, New York. Cleaning staff had discovered the body of 32-year-old Roseberline Philippe in the bathtub of room 230. Investigators determined that Roseberline had been beaten to death. Earlier that morning, Roseberline and 32-year-old Justin Bartley had checked into the motel. Surveillance footage showed Justin leaving with their 2-year-old son shortly before officers arrived. Justin's car was tracked to the Bronx home of the mother of another of his children. Investigators spoke with him there at around 8:30 p.m. Justin admitted he had struck Roseberline, saying she'd also struck him. He claimed blood on his face came from a pimple, and later told detectives he had punched and kicked the wall in the motel room, injuring his hands. Justin alleged Roseberline had argued with her family the day before at their White Plains apartment, where she lived with her son, and that she had been thrown out. In the motel room, he claimed Roseberline sat in the bathtub, didn't want him to leave, and was alive when he walked out. Justin was arrested later that evening and booked into the Westchester County Jail, charged with murder and child endangerment. He was arraigned on the 5th of December and entered a plea of not guilty. He remains in jail without bail, as he awaits his next court appearance scheduled for the 6th of March 2026. Justin has a prior criminal history. In 2022, he pled guilty in Rockland County to attempted criminal possession of a weapon and driving while intoxicated, and he was sentenced to 5 years probation. On Monday the 24th of November 2025, 76-year-old Venture Hazard and 83-year-old Donald Hazard were killed after their son allegedly assaulted them and set fire to their home at 77 Francis Street in North Adams, Massachusetts. According to the Berkshire County District's Attorney's Office, 44-year-old Darius Hazard confessed to attacking his parents between 3 and 4 a.m. Court documents state that Venture, who suffered from advanced arthritis and scoliosis, had fallen, and Darius snapped while he and Donald were helping. Investigators say Darius shoved both parents to the floor, struck them repeatedly, and hit them with various objects. At one point, he hurled a fan at his father, who begged him to stop. Despite their pleas, Darius admitted he continued the assault, before pouring gasoline on the first floor and igniting the blaze. As the fire spread, Venture and Donald were still alive, calling, "Come back, help us, we are in trouble." Darius fled the home, leaving them inside. At 7:11 a.m., a neighbour called 911 to report smoke coming from the residence. North Adams police arrived first, followed by the fire department. Firefighters forced entry and located Venture and Donald together in the living room. Both were deceased. An autopsy showed Venture suffered a fractured rib, head trauma, bruising on a leg, and soot in an airway. Donald had bruising, burns, cuts and soot in his throat and lungs. Both victims showed signs of smoke inhalation, which the medical examiner listed as a preliminary cause of death. While responding, law enforcement learned that Darius also lived at the address but was missing, and his car was gone. A dry spot in the driveway suggested his vehicle had been parked there recently, despite rain the prior evening. A be on the lookout alert was issued. Darius was scheduled to arrive at work at 10 a.m, but failed to appear, something colleagues described as highly unusual. By 2 p.m, a state police detective spotted his vehicle in the Walmart parking lot off Route 7 in North Adams. Officers confirmed the license plate and took him into custody without incident. Darius is being charged with arson and 2 counts of first-degree murder. He's been held without bail at Berkshire County Jail, pending a dangerousness hearing. Darius is scheduled to return to court on the 29th of December. 31-year-old Paige Ciera Craig is behind bars after allegedly stabbing a relative during an altercation. At 8:36 p.m. on the 29th of November 2025, authorities responded to reports of a stabbing in the 500 block of Green Street in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. When they arrived, they found an adult male victim suffering from non-life-threatening slash wounds to his left hand and face. Investigators determined the fight had actually occurred 4 blocks away, in the 400 block of South Duke Street, where 2 family members were involved. Paige joined in and stabbed the victim. Authorities collected evidence in the area and through surveillance video, identified Paige as a suspect. At 9:47 p.m, she was located nearby in the 300 block of Beaver Street and taken into custody. She is charged with felony aggravated assault and misdemeanor possessing instruments of a crime. She's been held at the Lancaster County Prison without bond, pending her first court appearance. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 9th of December. 28-year-old Taylor Spigner is behind bars after allegedly assaulting her boyfriend. Authorities say the incident happened on the afternoon of Thursday, the 27th of November 2025, at a home in Catawba Drive in Birchville Township, Michigan. The victim later arrived at Lake Huron Medical Center in Port Huron with a stab wound to the chest. Investigators believe he was stabbed and then struck in the head with a blunt object. He has since been discharged from the hospital. Taylor was arrested later that day at the residence. On Monday the 1st of December, she was arraigned on charges of attempted murder, assault with intent to cause great bodily harm, assault with a dangerous weapon, and domestic violence. Authorities have not said what led to the stabbing. Taylor remains held at the St. Clair County Jail on a $250,000 cash surety bond. A Florida man who murdered a woman he met through a dating app, then dismembered and burned her remains, will spend the rest of his life behind bars. 35-year-old Daniel Stearns was convicted of second-degree murder with a firearm, mutilation of a corpse, and tampering with evidence after his trial concluded in Brevard County Court in October 2025. The guilty verdict came more than 2 years after he was charged with killing Nancy Howery, a 44-year-old mother of 2. On the 3rd of December, he was sentenced to life in prison, with additional 22-year sentences for other charges to run concurrently. Nancy, from Indian Harbour Beach, was reported missing by ex-husband Todd Howery on the 18th of February 2023 after she failed to collect their children from school. Her car was later found abandoned. She had last been seen alive on the 15th of February 2023 after arguing with Daniel over the phone. A friend testified she overheard the call, during which Daniel accused Nancy of seeing other men and breaking his relationship rules. Despite the dispute, Nancy told a friend she planned to meet him in Palm Bay to make up. Daniel then lured Nancy into a remote wooded area locally known as the Compound. There she asked to be shown how to shoot his gun. The argument reignited, and Daniel fatally shot her in the head. He then dismembered her body, poured lighter fluid over her remains and burned them, scattering pieces across several sites. The disposal process spanned multiple days and left law enforcement with 5 separate crime scenes to investigate. Detectives with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office placed Daniel under surveillance after Nancy's disappearance. They followed him into the compound and observed him attempting to dispose of evidence, tying him directly to the crime scenes. He was arrested soon after. At sentencing, prosecutors described Daniel's actions as driven by jealousy and control. Todd, speaking on behalf of their children, called the crime a savage slaughter, saying what Daniel did was demented and defective. 27-year-old Benjamin Andrew Visser is behind bars, accused of fatally shooting his wife, 21-year-old Mary Visser, and a co-worker 32-year-old Shaquille Simmons outside a pizza shop in Tempe, Arizona. The incident occurred at just after 9 a.m. on Monday the 1st of December 2025, in front of Little Caesars Pizza at 967 East Guadalupe Road. At the time, Benjamin and Mary's 6-month-old child were at a nearby daycare. Benjamin reportedly called 911 immediately after the shooting, telling dispatchers, "I just pulled out a gun and shot 2 people." He identified himself and pleaded repeatedly for help, saying he had placed the weapon on the floor. Officers arrived within minutes. Mary was found critically injured in the parking lot, while Shaquille collapsed after running around the building. Both were rushed to Banner Desert Hospital, where they later died. Before losing consciousness, Mary told officers, "My husband shot me." Benjamin was detained at the scene. When asked if he knew the victims, he replied, "It's my wife and it's her co-worker." Surveillance footage reportedly shows Benjamin first shooting Shaquille, then Mary, firing again at Shaquille as he fled, and later shooting Mary a second time after she fell to the ground. Court documents reveal troubling behaviour in the days leading up to the shooting. The night before, Benjamin confronted Mary's co-workers, accusing them of sleeping with his wife, and specifically harassed Shaquille. The restaurant manager reportedly shooed him away rather than calling police. Witnesses also said Benjamin often sat outside the restaurant during Mary's shifts watching her. In one incident, he stormed out of a nearby business in a rage after seeing Mary speak with Shaquille, slamming the door so hard employees feared the glass would shatter. During questioning, Benjamin claimed he and Mary had argued that morning about finances and him getting a job. He said he blacked out after walking her to work and did not remember the shooting. He admitted to controlling Mary's actions, saying he had to approve where she went, whether she drank alcohol or spoke to other men. Benjamin also spoke of mental illness, learning disabilities and a lack of medication since his teenage years. He also alleged that he was denied treatment because he was not addicted to drugs. Despite this, detectives noted he clearly understood that murder is wrong. When asked about Mary's relationship with Shaquille, Benjamin admitted he suspected an affair, but had no proof. Police emphasised there was no evidence of anything beyond a professional relationship. Benjamin is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and remains held at the Maricopa County Jail on a $2 million cash-only bond. A 64-year-old Alabama woman is accused of killing her boyfriend after what police describe as a sudden violent outburst. Bonita Brown is charged with the shooting death of Thomas Williams, also 64. At around 2 p.m. on the 23rd of November 2025, a passerby found Thomas unresponsive near his car on a dead-end road off Maple Avenue in Birmingham, Alabama. First responders pronounced him dead at the scene. Investigators later determined he had been shot multiple times shortly after 12:30 p.m. Detectives quickly began piecing together the case. They found no phone or shell casings at the scene, but Thomas's phone records and smartwatch data showed recent contact with Bonita. Flock license plate cameras also placed a vehicle in the area before and after the shooting. Armed with those clues, police identified Bonita as the suspect. She was arrested the next day and booked into the Jefferson County Jail on a murder charge. After being advised of her Miranda rights, she confirmed a relationship with Thomas and admitted to meeting him in a park for sex. She confessed that when Thomas broke up with her immediately afterward, she snapped and shot him 3 times. Bonita told investigators she dumped Thomas's phone near the airport, went grocery shopping and returned home. She later directed officers to the handgun and shell casings, which were recovered from her residence. At a detention hearing on the 26th of November, investigators testified about the missing phone and casings, and how evidence traced back to Bonita. Bond was set at $100,000. Prosecutors argued against bond, citing the seriousness of the crime, and noting that Bonita had been placed on suicide watch while in custody. Her defense lawyer highlighted her health problems, back issues, high blood pressure, diabetes and possible high cholesterol, and stressed that she is the primary caretaker for her autistic daughter, who lives with her and her de facto husband. Bonita remains behind bars, awaiting her next court date. U.S. Marshals have arrested a Virginia man wanted on multiple sex abuse charges. 22-year-old Jonathan Christopher Walton is accused of traveling to Iowa to engage in sexual relations with a minor. On the 12th of March 2025, investigators in Marion, Iowa developed information suggesting Jonathan had fled back to Virginia and began coordinating with U.S. Marshals. Authorities say he was located in Rice, Virginia at around 3 p.m. on the 3rd of December and taken into custody without incident. Jonathan's been held at the Piedmont Regional Jail in Farmville, Virginia, awaiting transfer back to Iowa. 31-year-old Helena Little is behind bars, accused of killing her 79-year-old mother Norma Little inside their Virginia apartment. At around 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 18th of November 2025, a caregiver arrived for a scheduled visit at the premises at 2341 Dallas Station Boulevard in McNair. Inside, the caregiver found the residence in disarray and discovered Norma's body on the floor, trapped beneath an overturned recliner. She was unresponsive, with visible stab wounds to her upper body. Responding officers noted a strong odor of cleaning products lingering throughout the apartment. Court documents confirmed that an autopsy determined Norma died from sharp force injuries to the upper body and neck. Detectives say she had limited mobility and relied on daily assistance from her 2 adult children who lived with her, as well as professional caregivers. Investigators quickly identified Helena as the primary suspect, using surveillance footage, witness statements and electronic key fob data. Police allege that after the attack, she left the apartment carrying a backpack and walking the family dog, never returning to the scene. 2 days later, Helena was located about 5 miles away in Reston, where she was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. She's been held without bond at the Fairfax County Jail.